Okay, so life's a mess at the moment, actually, quite frankly. I'm close to losing it. There is nobody to blame for my life being in a shambles. It seems I have been confronted with the sheer fact that this year is going to be great only if I change, only if I decide to step up to the plate of the level of responsibility needed for the level of success that I desire. Yes. I know I haven't been doing the things that I could have been doing, and I haven't been doing the things that I should have been doing for where it is I want to go. And now I'm mad at myself. There is actually nobody to blame. And I'm so used to being in an immature state where it's like, it was this person's fault, it was this thing's fault, it was the fact that I couldn't do X, Y, Z. But there is actually nobody to blame. The reason why I feel stuck is because I've allowed myself to get stuck. I've allowed myself to not do the things that would push me out of my comfort zone and therefore push me to progress. So really and truly, I'm making this video to drag myself. I'm really just trying to get myself in check. And I thought I would just document it as the beginning of this journey. Whether you guys get an update on this situation or not, yeah, you definitely should, because I haven't really got in mind much YouTube content that I specifically want to film apart from just sharing my journey. And it seems like right now, this is the beginning of that journey. I need to sort my life out. Like for the majority of the world, 2020 was a rough year for me. I was very unhappy, burnt out, on the brink of depression. I was broke. Girl, at some point I had £12 in my bank account. And in all honesty, I was emotionally, mentally, and spiritually and physically tired. I was over it. I was done. 2021 would be the year that I radically pursued transformation, that I radically pursued peace and forming new habits. At the end of that long process in December 2021, I had completely changed my life around by the grace of God. I had 5 figures in my savings account. I had had a 6-figure year with my business. I had just moved into a new apartment with my friend. I had decided to take a new leap in my career and had started what is probably one of the fastest growing sisterhood communities in the world. And whilst I am full of so much gratitude and completely overjoyed with everything that happened to me in 2021 and that I was able to do, it all came down to one pivotal thing for me, which was rest. Embracing the principle of rest as an act of faith. So let's get into it. So I'm gonna break this video down into 6 areas of my life where I really kind of leveled up. If you came to the Vision Conference, the To My Sisters Vision Conference at the end of 2021, then you know the 6 pillars that I'm about to talk about. If you haven't, then head to the link in the description down below to get caught up on what Vision 22 is. But I am going to start off with my mental, emotional, and spiritual health. I was depleted and sucking in all of these 3 areas, and it was a surprise. Well, it wasn't really a surprise to me because I wasn't doing anything intentionally to avoid being completely empty spiritually, being completely broken emotionally, and also just being extremely mentally exhausted. I wasn't doing anything intentionally to avoid that. And if you don't put intentional things in place, intentional boundaries, intentional habits, intentional actions, you're going to find yourself derailing into chaos. Everything devolves into chaos. And so I found myself spiritually depleted. The furthest I had ever felt from God, my relationship with God, was pretty much in the worst place possible. Emotionally, I was still combating a lot of disappointment. A lot of unhealthy past experiences were still holding me back. And mentally, I had allowed work to really burn me out to the point where I was sinking into a depression and feeling disappointed in myself. And I wanted to change that. So the first thing I did for 2021 was invest in therapy. Admitting that I needed help, admitting that I felt weak, and embracing that vulnerability was one of the best things I could have done in 2021. It's so easy to want to cover up your issues with, more self-development books. You see all these lovely books on this bookshelf, more self-development books, more, aesthetic things. I just need to do some more self-care. And these kind of pseudo aesthetic and oftentimes just surface level things that we see on social media that we want to replicate in our own lives, or we implement in our own lives, thinking that it will fix everything. But actually going to somebody who I could talk to on a weekly, fortnightly basis helped me. Somebody who understood the mind, who understood the emotions, and also was invested in my story and my journey for the long term was one of the best things that I could do to invest in myself and ensure that I was going to level up holistically. And so I actually used Faithful Counseling because it's a Christian-based counseling system. However, Faithful Counseling is a division of BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an affordable and accessible online counseling service available to anyone in the world. And so definitely check out the link in my description if you want to get 10% off your first couple of months of therapy, just to start that journey and see if you like it. I know it can be a very challenging journey. I know that it is something that is very hard to start. However, if you feel like it is necessary for you to have someone who is a professional who you can talk to on a long-term basis, not just interact with once and have it all done, but actually someone who can see your journey of growth and be invested in taking you on that journey of growth, sis, you are worth that investment. And so I invested in therapy to help me process through my emotions and to help me pinpoint the reasons why I was behaving the way that I was. Why wasn't I implementing the things that I knew in my head, but why wasn't it trickling down into my heart? And why wasn't it, being manifest in the way that I was living my life? I was so shocked why there was that disconnect. And so talking to my therapist about it, being able to identify the issues and then establish new truths and new habits to be able to tackle it, starting with the mind, best thing I could have done. Second thing that I did, and this goes into my whole word for the year, which was rest, which was I had to be less busy, literally intentionally become less busy. I know, and I've done a few videos on it about toxic hustle culture and constantly pushing for more. I had to tell myself, sis, you need to do less. Sometimes less is more and less is less. Stop doing so much. Stop filling up your entire to-do list. Stop filling up your days feeling like you have to do more work. You have to, increase your output, increase your productivity, especially because I was doing it from a place of my value is in the things that I do. And that is a very dangerous place to be for your mental, emotional, and spiritual health. To tell yourself that what I do is a reflection of my value, my intrinsic worth. I have to prove whether I am worth the space that I occupy on earth. And having this immense pressure on your back that tells you your self-worth is directly correlated with your output, your business's performance. I was running my own company, and I had been running my company at that point for the last 3 years. And I wanted to see my business's improvement. I wanted to see my own personal development as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. However, I was doing it in the most unhealthy way because I wasn't truly learning. I wasn't truly evolving. What I actually was doing was repeating the same toxic cycles over and over again to keep myself busy. And I was using my busyness as the trophy. Rather than the company's growth and it excelling, I was rather focusing on, I need to show people that I'm working. But really and truly, I was running on a hamster wheel, and it was driving me to a bad place mentally and physically and emotionally and spiritually, because it was demonstrating I don't trust God. I don't trust God with my business enough to take a step back and actually say, I can do more with less time. I can be more effective if I pour into me, this business. And at a point, I was running a team of up to 8 people. How am I going to run a team of 8 people effectively and well if I'm not well? If I'm not okay, if I don't actually have a clear mind, if I don't know what I'm doing. And I didn't have a clear mind because my mind was so clouded and cluttered with so many unnecessary things that I thought were important, but honestly and truly, they were holding me back. I was burdened and I was weighed down from being optimized and effective because I was trying to do entirely too much. And so allowing myself to be less busy meant that, one, I slowed down, which gave my mind, my body, and my soul enough time to rest and recover and reflect. But also it meant that I was spending a lot more time in the quiet, I would say, thinking, confronted with my own fears, confronted with my own thoughts, confronted with what I did and, more importantly, did not know at the time, because I was kind of running on this hamster wheel of doing the same thing over and over again, trying to push the company to be more by simply doing more rather than leveling up and evolving my mindset on how to do more with less or with the same amount. I was now confronted with the gaps in my knowledge about business. I've always been a hustler, right? And up until that point, I was hustling, and I was hustling hard. And don't get me wrong, I was hustling well. Your girl was making money. However, it was running me into that ground, because the hustler's mentality is, how do I do more? I need to do more. How do I pack more into my time? Whereas the entrepreneur's mindset and their reality is, how do I create systems which allow for me to bring in more and create more without having to do more? And that was where I had gaps in my knowledge. And so being able to kind of step back from being busy and being honest with myself and saying, girl, you don't know as much as you think you know. I know it's gotten you this far, but if you're trying to go to the next place, if you're trying to get to a place where you're happy and you're content with your growth and your evolution, you have to be real about the fact that there's a lot of gaps in your knowledge as an entrepreneur. And that's fine. You know, at the time I was 23 and I didn't know a lot about a lot of things. I was doing with what I had, but I had to push myself to really fill those gaps and be intentional about filling those gaps. And that couldn't happen with a jam-packed schedule. It required me to really slow down. So I had to start saying no. I had to start saying no, especially to myself. When that urge came to just do more, make another order, you know, do another sale, do it bigger and better than last time, I had to tell myself no. You know, your well-being, your mental, emotional and spiritual well-being, as well as your skill as an entrepreneur, is actually way more important than just making money right now. You know, you have the rest of your life to make money, right? But right now you're trying to get yourself geared up to the place where you can make that money effectively and it doesn't cost you your entire sanity. And that's where it was getting to, and I didn't like that. I guess the third part of this segment was spiritually. Spiritually, in 2020 and 2021, it was a very tough year for me. I was dealing with a lot of questions that I had in my own heart. And of course, 2020 was the year of isolation, right? It was the year of being alone and having to isolate physically, and therefore dealing with the realities and the dangers of being on your own. And the faith of Christianity is mainly around community. The journey is meant to be done in a group. It's meant to be done in a family. It's meant to be done in a body. And being detached from that body and having that distance meant that I was dealing with a lot of questions which I now had to answer by myself. And I had to cultivate and really prioritize having that individual relationship with God. And it was a challenge. It was a huge challenge for me. And I hadn't realized that I had really slipped away from being protective about my individual relationship with God, and rather had allowed corporate worship and being in a church and being in a church body to really make up the majority of my worship and the majority of my journey, which isn't bad. However, there is a need to really prioritize your individual walk with God. And 2020 was the year that really challenged me to do that. And honestly, I can say that I failed at it. I failed at it and I crumbled under the weight of that isolation, or it got to me. And in 2021, I really had to be intentional about rediscovering who Jesus is and coming to the true knowledge of the fact that, one, Jesus is enough, and two, he is a safe place to rest in, right? You can put all of your energy and all your trust rather in your work, what you know, who you know, what you have. But I had to come to the reality, especially in 2021 being the year of rest, me actually doing less. I had to start putting my trust for provision, my trust for companionship and community in God, because it meant I'm resting. I'm not going everywhere. You know, I didn't travel. I didn't go to a lot of like functions and motives because I was very exhausted and very burnt out. I was spending a lot of time on my own. And still we were in the middle of a pandemic, you know, and so having to rely on God for comfort and companionship, and having to figure out who God is for myself, reading, studying, actually praying and being protective of my prayer time and being disciplined in my prayer time, is something that I'm still trying to get as strong at as possible. But 2021 was the year that I realized Jesus is a safe place to rest in, and I need to go and rest in him. It's not enough to just rest. For me, and because of my journey and because of my faith, I had to rest as an act of trust. I had to rest as an act of acknowledging that God is enough for me and that he'll provide for me, and trusting him in that way and allowing him to actually manifest his plans for me through me. Because I went into the year of 2021 simply with the goal of rest. And I didn't have that many specific goals for my career. I didn't have specific goals for my money, anything like that, because for me, it was literally a Jesus take the wheel moment. It was a Jesus take the wheel moment. And because I was in that lane of faith and fully just trusting God with everything, which I had been very protective over before, it meant that I could see new things manifest in my life, which I would never have been able to plan for. So the next segment of my life where I saw a lot of transformation was physically. Now, resting and taking some time off really helped me to notice a lot of the changes which had happened in my body due to stress and putting it under immense stress. Now, being an entrepreneur, being self-employed, especially at such a young age and without a lot of financial resources, I didn't have investors, I didn't have a team at the time, before I got my team of contractors. I had been doing everything on my own. That was an immense amount of stress. However, I've talked about my PCOS journey recently on my channel, so definitely go and watch that journey. As somebody with polycystic ovarian syndrome, I quickly learned my body does not like stress. My body and stress, no. And because I had continually put my body under immense stress, it was doing a number on my hormones. And your hormones really do influence your mood, your weight, your physical state. I was a mess. Oh, my skin, a mess. Everything was horrible. And I really saw a lot of transformation in this area when I started resting. Because I was less tired, I had more energy to do things which were actually healthy for me. And because I was less busy, it meant I could actually put more of my time into taking care of myself and into my physical well-being. So I was sleeping more, a lot more. I went from sleeping 3-4 hours a day to actually sleeping 8 to 9 hours and realizing that that's what my body likes and that's what it needs. I drank so much more water. I actually had enough time to exercise and do more physical activity. And so I had hit my highest weight at the beginning of 2021. I was the heaviest I had ever been, and I decided, this can't work anymore. I'm not confident anymore. I don't like the way that I look in clothes. I don't like the clothes that I can buy. I don't like feeling sluggish. I don't like this feeling of feeling constantly tired. And I know that carrying all of this excess weight is not helping. It's not helping that I also was, mindful of things like diabetes and heart issues and cancer and all these things which being obese puts you more at risk of. And so I decided on my own to take this personal journey of not being rushed, but instead kind of holding myself accountable to taking care of my physical well-being. And I knew the main way that would probably be manifest is losing weight, but I was more so focused on conscious of the journey. I was conscious of getting in the sleep, prioritizing eating better. I was able to cook for myself now. I was able to stop, eating loads of junk food because of the convenience. I'm usually at the office, and the most convenient thing to do if you only have like a 25-minute lunch break is to nip to the nearest fast food shop and get something quick to eat, but you're not thinking about its nutritional value. And I didn't really have an understanding about all these things either. And so it was good to kind of take that step back and say, I need to start thinking more consciously about my health. And I ended up losing 25 pounds, which is the most weight I have ever lost in a considerable amount of time. I lost that 25 pounds over a 6-month period though. The focus wasn't the weight loss, it was the journey that would allow the weight loss to happen. It was reframing my beliefs about food, reframing my attitude towards exercise and movement, and loving my body enough to take care of it and to pursue the confidence that I really wanted. And so it was developing confidence in the gym. Whilst I don't have my dream body right now, I am hella confident. I'm hella confident in those spaces of being in the gym, cooking. I was growing in confidence, cooking for myself, being able to take myself through a process of being confident in the things that I do. It was really eye-opening. It was great to then push my body to do something which it, quite frankly, was uncomfortable doing before, but now it was doing it and it was enjoying it, and I was enjoying that process. So that's how I saw transformation in my body physically. If there's one thing I can say to you, sis, if you are struggling with anything like hormonal or just generally in life, the body doesn't like stress, to the point where even when coming up with my exercise plans and my exercise routines, I have to do low impact steady state exercises. I do not do HIIT at all. And I know a lot of people are like, if you want to lose weight, do HIIT. My body doesn't like HIIT because it doesn't like stress, okay? And exercising is already a form of stress. So putting yourself under these high intensity exercises might not be the best thing for you, but low impact exercises works for me because I created the time for it. You know, if you're trying to burn the same amount of calories as you would in a 50-minute HIIT workout, doing LIST workouts or low impact steady state, it's probably going to take you double the amount of time. So I had to create that time, and that's why resting was important for me, and really, you know, like I was saying in the first segment, unpacking my schedule so that I could focus on things that were important for me. And I will definitely caveat it with saying this, taking that year of rest for me was a huge privilege, right? I was very much in a good place. I was living at home in my mum's house. I wasn't paying any rent. All of my money was my money. Don't have kids or like any dependents. All of my money is my money. And I would definitely say, if you are in that kind of privileged position and you are young and you are able to have that kind of radical self-focus and selfishness to pursue your own goals, even if it is just for 1 year, do it. Do it. I took last year as like my gap year, and I always tell people last year was a gap year for me, a much needed gap year, and it literally changed my entire life. So I do want to preface it by saying that, because I know not everyone has the luxury of being able to say, I'm going to spend 2 hours a day in the gym because I want to take things slower, or, you know, I'm going to stop working on certain things, and even if it means making less money, I'm doing it for me. I know not everyone is in that position. And also in the area of physical well-being, I took a lot more time to invest in the way that I look. My skin, I had a horrible time with my skin at the beginning of 2021. I was breaking out everywhere. I didn't feel confident with my skin. And I don't like to wear makeup every single day or very often even. I usually only wear makeup to film or to go out like with friends, like occasions. Do you get what I mean? So for me, my skin was becoming a bit of an insecurity, but I had to identify what the problem was, because I know that my skin isn't necessarily problematic. I don't have acne or anything. So when I saw all those breakouts, I knew it's because of stress. It's because I'm not eating the right foods. And so investing in my, you know, internal well-being really did manifest itself outwardly, because I've been getting the most compliments on my skin, the fact that I'm glowing. I'm smiling so much more than ever because I'm truly happy. I'm just happy, and that radiates through. And investing in rest meant that I started to look well rested. I started to look happy. I started to look confident. I started to look like somebody who had peace. And talking about peace, let's talk about my circle and my relationships. Now, in this year of rest, I was spending a lot of time alone, and I wasn't lonely though. And I'm used to being alone and kind of enjoy my own company. And, you know, being alone meant that I was depending on God a lot more, because not everyone is on the same journey as you, right? Not everyone is going to understand what's going on with you. And also oftentimes the biggest transformations happen in isolation. And so I was spending a lot of time on my own and away from my friends, not intentionally, but it just kind of happened that way. And it was cultivating a lot of peace in me. I was very much peaceful. My mind was less cluttered as well with other people's thoughts and other people's opinions. Whilst I did miss my friends at times, and it did sometimes feel like, okay, I would like to be doing this journey with someone, or I would like to just get around people. Sometimes I just couldn't. I started to realize that I really like the friends that I have, because they helped me maintain that peace. They helped me pursue that peace as well. And it also made me realize that I need to be very protective of my circle, because I didn't want to be in relationship or community with anyone who disturbed that peace. So even embarking on networking and meeting new people throughout the year, I was very much so mindful of the fact that I have peace to protect, and I don't want to give everyone and anyone access to this very sensitive season of my life, which is very transformative. And you can call it what you like, but I don't think everyone should be, I don't think everyone needs to have the same level of access and closeness to you. There are friends, close friends, best friends, acquaintances, co-workers. I think having those distances and having those different circles, which range in proximity to you and your heart, are really really important. And that's what 2021 allowed me to cultivate, because I had peace to protect. But I do also want to note that sometimes, or most times, pursuing peace doesn't just mean cutting people off. I think we get so attracted to this idea of, oh great, now I need to cultivate this exclusive circle, and having, access to me is like a huge privilege. And I get it. And I think that's true. But also I think sometimes we do that to boost our own egos. But actually sometimes pursuing peace is saying I'm sorry, saying I was in the wrong, embracing having to do the work to mend a relationship. And 2021 was the year that I saw the most breakthrough in my relationship, especially with my family. Taking time to actually reconcile with the people in my life who I don't want to just see walk out. Oftentimes actually then having to realize the parts that I played. And so pursuing peace for me in those relationships meant calling myself up on my ish, calling myself up on my arrogance, calling myself up on my own toxic tendencies that had caused people to distance themselves away from me. And it has repaired so many of the relationships in my life which were fractured before. Don't get caught up in this misconception that in order to maintain peace in your life, you need to start cutting people off, because no one is perfect, including you, right? We all have a lot of work that we are doing, and sometimes it's going to require, well, most times love requires a whole bunch of humility. And it's something that I'm even having to learn for myself this year. In order to see a lot of the relationships in your life flourish, you're going to have to be humble. You're going to have to love. You're going to have to serve. You're going to have to submit. You're going to have to do things which don't put you first, right? Yeah. So in my relationships, I had to start apologizing for absence. I had to start being more intentional about communicating, which is something that I'm really still working on and have been convicted on lately, but also embracing a small circle and cherishing that small circle. Next area, my money. Being from a low socioeconomic background and growing up in a low income single parent household meant that money was a thing that I was thinking about from early, and I didn't always have the best relationship with it because it was always often from a place of lack. And I learned, the most amazing principles from both of my parents and all of my family members, which was to work damn hard, because that's the only way you make money, and that's where you make ends meet. But when I kind of took this year of resting, I had to have a completely different outlook and learn a completely different outlook towards my money, which really challenged that mentality of scarcity, because I was no longer living in like a low socioeconomic environment. Like by the grace of God, a lot of doors and opportunities have been opened for me and my family. Things which have allowed us to get out of the financial situations that we have been in the past. Like that is a complete blessing. But my mindset was still like, I'm broke. Like tomorrow, this could never be here. And like I said in the beginning, in 2020, I experienced a huge hit on my money and my business's income, and being young and self-employed and that being your only source of income. It's really hard when your money gets hit because it's not steady income. For a long time, I wasn't on furlough. There was nothing for me to go to be like, it's all right if I'm not working, I've got this money coming in. No, I need to work for my money, like most people. And so one of the biggest goals I had for 2021 was I want to save. I want to save because I hadn't been saving. I'm not used to saving. I'm bad at saving, right? I was a spender. But the first thing I had to do in order to save in the first place was actually to increase my income, to make sure that I was making enough money to be able to take care of my lifestyle, take care of my living, and then save. And then of course, cut back my expenses. If you want more detail about how I was specifically able to save, in 2021, I saved £22,000. Which I don't know. So the first thing I did was to increase my income, but because I was trying to decrease the amount of work that I was doing, I had to look into different income streams. I had to also look into avenues where I could make money in a much smarter way. So I actually had to let people in my community know what I was trying to do. So I let my friends know that I had a new financial target, especially because I wanted to save towards, maybe buying a house one day. I let my accountant know, and my friends, my accountant, and my network let me know of different opportunities, which I just was not privy to prior. Like I didn't know you could make money from grants. I didn't know that there were funds out there to help you start your own projects and your own ideas. I've always had the mindset of DIY, like do it yourself. If I have an idea, I have to make it happen. But actually, I was being made known of so many different opportunities which would open up financial doors for me. My accountant was bringing me new ideas of tax relief, ways that I could actually get myself on furlough as a self-employed person or as the employee of my own company. Money was just coming in from different angles. I was a part of the YouTube Black Voices Fund on YouTube. And for somebody who wasn't creating consistently on their channel, that was purely due to my passion for content and just always letting people know, whilst I might not be creating here on this channel, I am so passionate about content, and I'm so passionate about how far content can go in changing narratives for people who look like me, people who are from backgrounds like mine, people who have experienced things like I have experienced. I just was so vocal about my love of content and my belief in its power that it got me into a place where I didn't even think that I deserved to be, but the door was open, and literal favor meant that I was included in the Black Voices Fund, the first ever class for it. And that did come with money as well. It's just all of these different things which compounded, even though CDB London was closed for more than half of the year, the times when we did open up to have sales, and even though I cut back the amount of wigs that we were selling, I upped my price. I upped my price, and taking time to really think about my value, think about how confident I was asking for more money for sponsored campaigns, for content, asking for more money for consulting brands, asking, for more money when it came down to the wigs that I was selling and the hair that I was selling, because I believed in its value. That meant that I was doing less, but making the same amount, if not more. And so the times when we did open up CDB London's doors or the website for people to buy things, we were making more than we had ever made, ever. And that was a massive shock to me, because it meant, 3 major sales, and I had made what we had made in the previous year in just 3 rounds of sales. I also prayed. I prayed a lot about my finances, and I let God know, these were my insecurity, these were my fears, but also these were my goals. And I saw doors open that I definitely couldn't open on my own. I saw doors opened by the power of community and relying on my network like never before. It's very easy, especially as women, and I think especially in British culture, we are taught to be very private about money. We are taught to be very private about our financial journey and our financial goals, and to kind of hustle in silence. And I think it's important for us to actually have conversations with trusted people, letting them know that we can't do this on our own, and we want to learn. We want to learn from their knowledge. We also want to lean on them in terms of their knowledge about finances, their knowledge about opportunities, and places where there is money. Because sis, let me tell you something, come close. There is money out there. There is money out there to be made, and you don't always just have to work for it. Sometimes people can give it to you. Sometimes you can make it in passive ways, and being clued up on the ways that you can be smarter about money is one of the best things that you can do for yourself and for your independence. The last thing I would also say in the area of money is learn to leverage what you already have. I think often we think we need more. We need more knowledge, we need more things, we need more opportunities, we need more money, we just need more. But actually, have you maximized what you already have? That is one of the honest questions we need to ask ourselves. I have been graced to be able to have a lot of equipment for visual things. So light, camera, action, but also the talents and the skills that I already had, the knowledge which I had acquired already over time. What was I doing with the things already in my possession? When it comes down to looking for more money, it's not always about acquiring more things, but actually being resourceful enough and smart enough to use what you already have. And so a lot of us need to go and dust off the books that we already have bought, the journals we already bought, the ideas that we wrote down that we haven't revisited, the equipment that we already have that we haven't used. If you're trying to build a YouTube channel, use your phone. Like, you know, a lot of us can get so bogged down with, I can't do what I want because I don't have what I need, when actually we already have enough. You know, and you might not have more than what you need. Like, you might not have the optimal amount. You might not have the best camera, the best lens in the world, but you have enough. You have enough to produce something to get you started. And so take time to really value and honor the things that you already have in your life before you go out searching for more. And if you can buy more, then start there. But you're going to have to eventually come to the conclusion that you have to use what's in your hands. You have to use what's in your possession. You can't always allow the fact that you don't have something hold you back from what you know you need to do, and also hold you back from doing what you know will get you closer to your goals. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is career. Now, for context, when I left university, like straight after graduating, I decided to jump straight into self-employment, which meant that I didn't really have like a clear career trajectory, a career path. I didn't plan things out very well. If there's one thing about me you need to know is I haven't really been the best planner. Like, I can admit that. I haven't been the best planner in life. However, in 2021, I did have a clear idea of the fact that I only want to work on things which I'm really passionate about. I want to work on things which I enjoy. Now, in saying that, even in doing things which you like, you're not going to like every part of it. However, I think loving the overall picture helps you get a bigger appreciation even for the things that you don't like, right? It makes it worth going through. I just don't like things which I don't feel motivated by at all. And so I decided to start curating my own career by working on projects rather than thinking about, so what am I going to do for the rest of my life? And one of the projects was working on To My Sisters, which initially was just, you know, supposed to be a podcast with me and my best friend. However, it has grown and become truly what we want it to be, which is a digital sisterhood community. And now that's what I work on, like, all the time. And being able to do that, working on creating intentional content, working on impacting people with the things that I have learned and the journey that I am on, that is soul reviving for me. Like, that it makes me so passionate, and it really is the fire shut up in my bones, like, if I'm gonna be honest. But it meant that I actually had to now start serving people. I now had to start thinking about, how can I bring value to people? Because I know business is all about adding value. It's all about providing a solution to a problem. And CDB London did that with products. Now I'm here trying to do that with content. I'm here trying to do that with community, right? How do I add value to people? And it became about learning how to serve, learning how to listen to other people's problems. And all of that came from a place of peace. All of that came from a place of rest, because the one thing that is hard to do is serving people from a place of burnout, serving people when you're in a place of exhaustion. There's that common phrase of, you cannot pour from an empty cup. And so I had to become intentional about, where am I getting filled up? How am I getting filled up? Am I spending enough time getting educated? Am I spending enough time resting and getting refueled? Am I spending enough time investing in my community and having people speak life into me? Am I spending enough time getting equipped to be able to serve and pour out? Being intentional about those things meant that now, when I was working on my passion projects, I was not only working on what I was passionate about, but I was also succeeding and excelling at it, which made me want to do it more. I do think that I have been blessed and completely privileged to have these strategic points in my life where I've had opportunities which I could leverage, right? And being smart about the leverage to then be able to go into that next step a lot more confident in focusing on what I want to do rather than what I have to do and what I need to do. And that is a huge privilege in itself and a huge blessing. And I would encourage, if you can, to just take a step back and think about how you could potentially do that in your life if that's what you want, right? To be able to think about, how do I get myself into a position where I can start working on the business, the charity, the organization, the project, the film, the book, whatever it might be, the content, where I can do this thing that I love full-time, or these things that I love full-time. What would that require? Would that require me working my butt off and getting a year's worth of savings? Because that's what I had to do, right? This year, I'm probably set to make, well, God forbid, let me not say that. This year, I haven't necessarily put like a figure on how much I want to make, right? And I'm not putting pressure on myself to make as much money as I made last year, because I'm not doing the same things that I was last year. I've basically started out in a completely new career as a content producer for TMS, for this channel, for other brands, stuff like that. In doing that though, in becoming a full-time storyteller, I know I might not make all like the same amount of money or a lot of money from the jump. So last year, because I was so heavy on my savings, because I knew if I want to have the freedom to do what I want to next year, I'm going to need to have some money in the bank, because I had just moved. I was also planning on moving into a new apartment with my best friend, which would require me to pay rent and bills. So I had to just be really honest with myself. I can't go to bank of mum and dad. You know, as soon as I move out of my mum's house, all that free, it stops. She's not sending me any money. All of it is going to be on me. And so I have to be smart. And so I had to put in a year's worth of very smart work and realize, okay, if you haven't got savings from back then and you're still trying to rest, think about the smartest way to create enough savings and make sure that you do save with the knowledge that saving will allow me to do what I really, really love in 2022. And thank God that is where I find myself now. So all in all, what I will say is this journey has really been a testimony. It has really been a testimony. I have seen so much transformation in my life, and I might not be where I want to be, but 2020, like I think back to February 2020, Courtney would not have imagined that this is where my life would be right now at all, right? At all. If I'm going to be honest, I would not have imagined that this would have been my life. And that is a complete testament, not to what I have done, not to the amount of hard work or anything like that, but genuinely to God's grace. Like, I can't attribute it to anything else. I'm a very smart person. I'm a very hard worker. I am very talented in the things that I do. I know that. I know my capacity is high. However, there are things and doors that have been opened to me which all of that stuff could not have opened. There are people that I have met who have come into my life who have purely been a blessing from heaven. There is no other explanation. Being able to work with my best friend and the sort of person that she is, if this girl had not come into my life, well, I have no idea where I would be. Being in the church community that I am in has changed my life. Having the family that I have, as difficult as it was, blessings, like, and being able to repair those relationships so that I could squeeze out the gold from them, absolute blessings, right? Those blessings have come from God, and it's nothing that I have done in my own strength. All of it has been trust, all of it has been grace, all of it has been mercy, and all of it has been trusting God enough and having faith enough to put my feet on God's promises, right? To allow myself to walk on God's promises, on his instructions, on his principles as well, you know? And so adopting these principles of wisdom when it comes to my money, my career, my relationships, my physical health, my mental and emotional health, all of that, being able to implement God's principles of wisdom onto my life to allow my whole life to be a testimony of glowing and growing was the best thing I ever could have done for 2021. And so I hope that this journey, this testimony of a journey, has been encouraging to you, and it has given you something to do, given you something to think about, whether that is just go to God and pray, or if it's, you know, get out that notebook and start planning a vision for your own life. As I go into February, that is one of the reasons why I wanted to upload this video right now, because as I go into this last week of January, it's all about planning, it's all about vision, and you have to look back. You have to look back on what went right, what went wrong, in order to optimize for the future, and that's where I'm at right now. So I hope that this helps you to do the same. If it does provide any inspiration for you, I really hope it does. But I just pray that as you go on your journey, whatever that looks like for you, that you just find so much peace, so much joy, so much fulfillment, so much prosperity, so just all of it. I hope that you get the biggest amount of blessings, but I also hope that you find God. I really do. I hope that you find God, because he's enough. He really is. And the plans he has for you, sis, is gonna blow all of our minds. So I hope that this video helped you. I hope that you enjoyed it. Definitely give it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications so you never miss a video from me. I will see you very soon. And as always, stay beautiful and stay blessed. Mwah.